Today's video is about living with less. You see, Santa Paula is about 10 miles from where I live here in Ventura, California. And last night a little fire broke out in Santa Paula, just a little one, but the winds were blowing and that little fire turned into a big fire. And then through the night, it spread all the way to Ventura. And by the time we got up at 6 o'clock this morning, there was a hospital here in Ventura burned down and 175 homes, and there was 0% containment of that fire. And it's continued to burn all day long. And we've been under evacuation orders. Many of our friends in the homes that they have here in Ventura and also up in Santa Paula and other places in between have evacuated. We don't know yet. Maybe even some of them have lost their homes. But, one of the things that I just really got excited about in this whole process is how if we had to evacuate, me and Kathy and myself, we live here in Ventura, if we had to evacuate, it really wouldn't take much because we don't have way too much stuff. Now in Seattle, that's another story, where that's where I'm trying to get rid of stuff. I spend half my time here in Ventura, and I spend half my time in Seattle, Washington. And Kathy and I moved here from Seattle a year and a half ago. When we moved here, then we moved out of her place, which was a 2-bedroom, fully furnished, nicely furnished apartment. The big screen TV and nice furniture and dining room set and all those things. And, we just decided that we wanted less stuff in our life. And so when we left Seattle and moved to Ventura, we got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, lots of stuff. We know people that had taken, they would store that stuff, and think, well, I can't take it all with me right now, but I'll store it, and yet it just ends up just dragging you down and your life down. We spend so much time taking care of our stuff. We spend time making money so that we can have the stuff. And after we have the stuff, then we spend so much time taking care of the stuff. Then we have to have a house that's big enough for our stuff. And then we have to spend all the time cleaning that house. Where, now here in Ventura, we have a small place. It doesn't take much time, maybe a half hour a week to keep the place clean, other than like the kitchen. We keep and do things there every day, and wash the dishes and what have you. But other than that kind of activity, that it takes, as far as house cleaning goes, it takes us maybe about a half hour a week of house cleaning. And so it's nice having less stuff. And let me introduce myself. I'm Non-Monogamous Mark, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of the nonprofit Non-Monogamous Lifestyle Association, where we aim to supply you with support and help and tools and creating a new normal in your life that is a sexually liberated, non-monogamous, ethically and consensually non-monogamous lifestyle that you can thrive in, and it will increase your abundance, your liberation, your freedom. Now, abundance does not mean having a lot of stuff. In fact, you'll actually increase your abundance by having less stuff. And that's what I'm thinking about today with all the people, the people that have lost their homes over the night here in the area. But even, here in this area, it's fires that really are a big concern for people. I mean, this has been the worst year in record for California with the fires and the houses burning down. But other parts of the country, they have hurricanes and they have, tornadoes and they have floods and all kinds of different natural disasters that ends up taking our stuff. All that stuff that you work so hard for and all that stuff that you protect and you attach yourself to so much. But see, I started learning my lesson a number of years ago, probably about, it was about 7, 8 years ago now. My grandfather died, and my grandmother had passed away before him, and he and my grandparents, they only had one daughter, and that was my mom, and so there's no daughters, and my mom has passed away, and so what I found is that my grandfather, he had a fear that my wife would go in through his stuff, and he made me promise on his deathbed, He made me promise, don't let your wife go through my stuff. And he made me promise to take and personally handle and look at and evaluate every single item. Because to him, he placed so much value on everything he owned. He was a collector because it was all his stuff had great value. And in reality, our stuff only has the value that we put on it. If you have lots of gold, that gold only has value that you put on it. Why not get rid of the gold and do something else with it then? Just put the money doing something else. But don't keep the gold around. That's just stuff. That's all it is. And now if there's investments, like stocks and gold and whatever you have in investments, that's fine. But having a collection or collecting stuff is totally different than investing. And so my grandfather made me promise on his deathbed, it was about a week before he died, don't let your wife go through my stuff. And so therefore, I spent my time going through his stuff. And at first I even thought, okay, he wouldn't have wanted all this stuff just to be gotten rid of. I'm going to try to sell this stuff. And what I found is that the estate paid me $30 an hour, which is not a high pay by any means, but paid me $30 an hour. And it wasn't, I tried having a garage sale and a yard sale. It wasn't worth my time at $30 an hour. It couldn't bring in enough money to justify to pay for my time. So after one weekend of doing that, it was like, hey, how can we get rid of this stuff as fast as possible? And mostly then, we put it out on the front yard and just put signs on it that said, free, have what you want. So really, we place so much value on that stuff. And so I learned that from taking care of my grandfather's estate. And now in my own life in Seattle, I've got too much stuff. I've got a 2,600 square foot house. And here in a couple months, next year, I'm going to be moving into it. It's be selling that house. And I'm going to be moving into my other house that I own, which is about 850 square feet. And so I'm looking forward to this process of getting rid of stuff. My girlfriend in Seattle, Chris, she kind of likes stuff. And so she has got a lot of stuff too. And so I'm looking forward to having less stuff and having less space, because the less space you have, the less room you have to have stuff, and it's that stuff that we keep buying. Why do you keep buying the stuff that you do? Do you consume and collect all this stuff? Why? Every year you keep making more money and keep consuming and you keep collecting and keep buying stuff. I know I did that myself too. But this fire has really brought to my mind how wonderful it is here in Ventura to have so little stuff. It would take us, yes, we have some furniture items here that we would lose if the place burned down. We would not be taking it with us if we evacuated. And there's some other things that we would lose. But, if we evacuated in a half hour, 1 hour tops, we would have everything out of here that we really need. And in fact, we probably could do that in 10, 15 minutes. Have everything out of here that we really need. And what do we need? We need things that serve our life. We got a cat. Well, we'd make sure we took the cat. But then things that serve our life. I occupy here in the house. I've got very little space that I occupy. I've got a little desk here. It's about 4 feet wide and it's about, 2.5 feet deep. And that's kind of like my world. And that's really all I need is that little space. And that's all I need to occupy. And so how much space do you need? How much stuff do you need? And so think about, if you had to evacuate quickly, what stuff would you take in the case of a hurricane or a house fire? Particularly, something totally unexpected, like maybe a house fire. What things would you grab and take, knowing that your house and everything in it is going to burn? And maybe you'd be better off if you just got rid of all that stuff. Don't wait for a house fire for that to happen. Don't wait for a flood or a hurricane or a tornado. Go ahead and start getting rid of that stuff here today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a link into this description for the Minimalist Game. In the Minimalist Game, I'm going to challenge you to take up this game up. And that's where you and one other person lives in another household. It could be a relative or a friend or a co-worker, but two people challenge each other. And on day one, you both start the game the same day. You can do it as a group if you like. More than 2 people would be great. But you start it the same day. And then first day, everybody gets rid of one item. Any item in your household that you own, get rid of it. Repurpose it. There's someone else out there that could use it, needs it. And then on day 2, you get rid of 2 items. Day 3, 3 items. And you keep going. So that means in day 4, you've gotten rid of 1 item on day 1, 2 items, that's 3 items. 3 items, that's 6 items, 4 items. In day 4, you've gotten rid of 10 items. And you keep going after that. And I don't know how many items it ends up being that at day 30 that you will have gotten rid of, because you're going to get rid of 29 items on day 29, 28 items on day 28, and then finally 30 items on day 30. And what it accumulates, I have no idea how many items that accumulates to. But, and the person who wins at that game is the person who makes it the farthest. Some people, they just get to where I can't get rid of more stuff. 16 items today. I don't know what 16 items I'd get rid of. And it becomes a panic for some. And so I'm going to provide a link and encourage you to go ahead and get on the play the Minimalist game for 30 days. Go all 30 days if you can. And if you can, then tell us about it by making a comment here in the link of this video. Now, if you can't go 30 days, that's okay too, because you still won by getting rid of the stuff that you did. And then you can just get back into a mindset of, I'm freer, I'm happier, my life is more abundant with less stuff. And so you may want to continue on that trend. So I'm also going to provide a link to the podcast by the Minimalist. You can either I'll be a link for YouTube, also a link for their podcast. You can listen to it through your podcast player, or you can just listen to it through YouTube. They give out great suggestions. And I've learned a lot in the last year from them. Like the questions, they say the worst words, what is it they say? The worst words is what if someday, or someday what if, or someday I might, or something like that. I might need that someday. I collected leftover hardware, nuts and bolts, my house in Seattle. I've got the shed that has nothing but nuts and bolts and nails and screws and hardware and stuff in it that I have to get rid of now because I don't have room for all that in the smaller house that I'm moving to. And so, start to just take a look at the stuff that you have and how you can have a life with less stuff. It's a life that's more abundant. It's a life that is freer, and it'll liberate you. And so that's what we do at Non-Monogamous Lifestyles. We help people to increase their abundance, their liberation, and their freedom, and having more stuff. So in Seattle, I have all this stuff to get rid of, and it's really kind of neat because my girlfriend, Chris, she has met this family that last year the husband was on his way to work. He was standing on the sidewalk waiting for a bus. And somebody came along that was drunk and hit him. And he spent like 3 or 4 months in the hospital and rehab. And they lost their place. They had, the place they had, they totally lost it, to the house, the apartment that they had. Well, he's now out of rehab, and so they're kind of putting their life together again because money-wise, she ended up having to move her and the kids into shelter. They just didn't have any money. I mean, he was the sole income provider for the household. So without that income that he couldn't make, then they didn't have the money. And so they did what they could, and they got rid of most of their stuff because they didn't have any place for it because they, had to leave their apartment. And so it's going to be fun going back to Seattle here. And in January, we've already talked to this family, and in January, they're going to come over to our place, and boy, we've got stuff for them. I'm getting rid of my 65-inch big screen TV. I spent $15,000 on the speakers and the surround sound and all the fancy stuff, and it doesn't serve me anymore. And so, we have some very nice couches and love seats and furniture. Just wonderful. We're going to be able to, it's just going to be so nice to give them all this stuff. Because Chris, when she moved in with me in my house a number of years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, she had lots of stuff that she brought with her as well. And so we're just like, have got, between the two of us, we just got a lifetime of stuff now that we are going to be looking forward to downsizing and to get rid of all that stuff so that we can learn to live with less stuff in Seattle, just like I've learned to live with less stuff here in Ventura. So to learn more about Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, go ahead and click on that first link in the description right there below and or above, wherever it is on this video, and click on that link and learn more about Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association, and go ahead and get on our email list. So thanks a lot, and let us know how you're doing at getting rid of your stuff.